Back in 1991, Montenegro adopted a declaration to become the first ecological state in the world. A year later, the declaration was included in the country's constitution. But since then, Montenegro has made little progress in protecting its environment. As the world moves towards greener and cleaner energy options, Montenegro seems to have gone in the opposite direction. The streets are full of garbage, rivers are piled with trash. Even neighbouring countries may be in danger as they share rivers with Montenegro. Mirjana Miladinovic went to Podgorica to find out why the country has failed to pursue its ecological goal.
Objavljujem da je Skupština Republike Crne Gore donijela deklaraciju o ekološkoj državi Crnoj Gori.
Iza nas su 32 potpuno izgubljene godine.
Montenegro is the only so-called ecological state in the world. It has even been enshrined in its constitution since September 20th, 1991. Back then, it was a visionary idea, and it was envisioned more than 30 years ago by physicist Dragan Hajduković, who says it was really a plan to save Montenegro.
Već 1988. godine je bilo jasno da Jugoslavija, nažalost, ne može preživjeti. I pitanje je bilo, poslije nestanka Jugoslavije, koji je najbolji razvojni put Crne Gore? Naravno, Crna Gora je malena država. Crna Gora ne može da određuje glavne tokove svjetske istorije. Jedan maleni narod kao crnogorski može postati svjetski zapažen, značajan i simpatičan jedino ako se uzdigne do visine primjera nečeg dobrog.
The project of the ecological state was a vision for Montenegro to become a global pilot project and an example of the first organized, sustainable human society on Earth, living in harmony with nature.
Projekat je uključivao kao planetarni pilot projekat svjetsko znanje. Bilo je predviđeno da veliki broj vodećih svjetskih stručnjaka za održivi razvoj pomogne da se Crna Gora razvija na jedan takav način. Na neki način bilo je predviđeno da nauka u Crnoj Gori, ali planetarno znanje, planetarna nauka, bude na neki način kao četvrta vlast, bez koje se ništa ne bi preduzimalo i radilo.
If Montenegro had taken that path, it could have been different today, but it didn't. The words ecological state are still inscribed in the Montenegrin constitution, but they've remained just words. The war that followed, the economic crisis, but also the lack of political will have held the project back from being realized. Today, Montenegro celebrates September 20th as the national holiday, but it is far from being an ecological state. Rivers are filled with garbage, forests are being cut down recklessly, and Montenegrin cities are often at the top of European lists with the most polluted air. Waste from the rivers flowing into neighbouring countries has also become a major cross-border issue.
Tako da smo mi negdje reaktivirali ideju izgradnje Crne Gore kao ekološke države, slobodno mogu reći, nakon obnove naše nezavisnosti, negdje 2006. godine. Danas, u 2023. godini, bojim se da nismo zadnjih 30 godina iskoristili na pravi način da Crnu Goru brendiramo onim što bi moglo da se zove Crna Gora kao ekološka država, jer vidite oko nas. Tu ako bismo negdje morali da nalazimo krivce, krivi smo svi.
Nismo radili na higijeni. Mi smo prije svega neuredna država, jer imamo otpad na svakom koraku, na ulazu u grad, na periferiji i možemo da sretnemo veliki broj smetlišta, tako da Prvo treba da sredimo infrastrukturu i da budemo uredni, a onda dolazi na red životna sredina.
The question is, can anything of the revolutionary idea created over 30 years ago survive today? Vojnović believes it can.
Hajmo sad sa ovom cjelokupnom evropskom pričom zelene agende i dekarbonizacije, eliminacije upotrebe uglja, klimatske neutralnosti, da tu negdje ideju izgradnje Crne Gore kao ekološke države redefinišemo, da Crnu Goru dalje gradimo kao cirkularnu, resursno efikasnu, održivu i zelenu ekonomiju i zelenu privredu, da je negdje uklopimo sa onim što su megatrendovi i evropskog i globalnog rasta i razvoja.
An ecological state in harmony with nature is perhaps needed even more urgently today, not only in Montenegro but worldwide, because even though many are unaware, humanity is at war with nature, and it's losing.
Džungla Amazona već niko ne može spasiti. Do kraja vijeka to je stepa. Led na sjevernom polu, koji je itekako značajan za krvotok planete, znači vodena i vazdušna strujenja, neće postojati do kraja vijeka, čak ni tokom zime. Naše Sredozemno more će postati tropsko more do kraja vijeka.
Phytoplankton, a single-celled organism that produces half of the planet's oxygen, now contains plastic particles in its composition. Physicist Hajduković warns that we must collectively awaken.
Nažalost, samo je jednocifreni procenat čovječanstva svjestan da smo bukvalno, kao što reče generalni sekretar Ujedinjenih nacija, na pragu kolektivnog samoubistva.
Environmentalists say Montenegro has let a golden opportunity slip to more than 3 decades of neglect and inaction, while surrendering its nature to state-approved plunder. And it may now be running out of time to even dwell on that past. Mirjana Miladinovic, TRT World, Podgorica, Montenegro.
Now, to get more on this, I'm joined from Žablac, Montenegro, by Aleksandar Dragičević. He is an environmentalist activist. Thank you very much for being with us today. Right, I'd like to ask you, Montenegro is defined as an ecological state in its constitution, but what does it mean to be an ecological state?
22 years ago, our government had a vision that sustainable development and environmental protection should be a path that this little Balkan country should move on. Unfortunately, the past 2 decades, we didn't do much in order to protect the environment and our natural goods. Montenegro is a mountain state, but we're also such a huge biodiversity pool in the heart of the Europe. 65% of our territory is covered with lush forests. We have lakes, we have beautiful seasides, but as the society and as the decision makers, we didn't do enough to make up for that constitutional right to be an ecological state, the first ecological state in the world, unfortunately. That's why we are here as the eco-activists to shed a light on what's happening and try to protect as much as our natural goods as we can.
Right, as you say, unfortunately not much was done over the course of the past few years. What are the conditions then to become an ecological state, as we see that Montenegro is actually one of the worst countries right now, today, when it comes to the environment? The country, for instance, is heavily dependent on its coal-fired power plant in the north, producing a significant amount of air pollution.
That's right. So 30 years ago, when we decided we'll be an eco state, we didn't think enough on what kind of strategies we will implement in order to reach that state. And instead of going towards the sustainable development, towards the sustainable trash waste collection, towards energetic independence, we did completely opposite. As you said, some 50% of our energy now comes from coal power plant, which is terrible not only for Montenegro, but also for the countries of the region that affects. We also don't have a sustainable waste collection strategy. We only recycle around 1% of all of our waste, and we do not have enough resources we didn't build capacities as well to fight illegal logging, illegal hunting with electricity and other means, and definitely we didn't protect our waters enough. I need to state that in the past 3 years, we did emphasize ecology as a path that we should go, and there were certain moves that the state, along with the activists and the civil society members, did manage to do. I will just give one of the examples on how ecological state shouldn't look like. There is River Morača next to Podgorica. It's the biggest river that goes through the city. And for the past 20 years, there was an illegal gravel extraction there. Pretty much our main capital city from 100,000 people went up to almost 300,000 in a short span of time, which means there was a lot of construction. And most of the gravel used for cement and construction industry came from their river. The river was completely devastated. You can even see it from the satellite images. The issue was the government did allow that, even if it was illegal. That not only affected the state of the environment, it also affected the people and our whole coast. I need to say that 25% of our BDP comes from tourism. And this river, the water spring next to it, is responsible for the water coming down, the drinking water. Last 3 years, we managed to stop that, as I said. We're now doing the remediation of this river, recultivation, and we managed to save the actual water supply down to the coast. That was one of the biggest eco fights in the past decade.
Right, very, very big problem. As you say, the whole country relies 50%, around 50% on coal. So if Montenegro then wants to meet its commitments in terms of carbon emissions, then the plant may have to shut down in a decade or so. But is that a possibility? Because we know that jobs there, for instance, are very much sought after in the whole region. Is that a real possibility that the plant will shut down?
With the sustainable strategies, it is definitely a possibility. We already meet our standards when it comes up to EU standards. So around 45 to 50% of our electricity comes from sustainable energy, like hydro, solar, and wind. The thing is, most of it comes from hydropower plant infrastructure that was erected like some 40, 50, or 60 years ago. We do not use our solar capacity almost at all. We did start last few years, not enough. And our wind power plants, there's only like one built and another few being built at the moment. So we definitely have a decade of a new energy transition, and that transition needs to be just. So we will have to find jobs for the people that are working in the coal plant as well as the thermal factory. And I think it is possible as well, because there will be a lot of jobs in sustainable tourism, agriculture, and many other fields as well that are in line with the eco-state and constitution of our country.
Interesting. Alexander, one last question. Last year, the government said it saw green energy not only as very important for the environment, but also as a main economic driver. Do you think that's true? Do they truly believe that? Are you optimistic for the near future in this sense?
I will just need to add the context to this as well. Montenegro 20 or 30 years ago used to have industry, and we used to have a massive aluminium plant as well as the steel company. Both of these got shut down in the past few decades. So now we have surplus energy that we export. So the government believes that we should actually become an energy exporter country, which we can, because we build a cable that connects us with Italy, and that's how we export our energy towards the European Union. And yes, the answer is Montenegro can use its solar and wind power along with their hydro energy to become a first energetically stable state, and then also an energy exporter as well. And that's how we can benefit from our nature on a sustainable way.
Truly interesting insights. Alexander Dragicevic, thank you very much. And that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.